salutations, everybody. Happy Friday, good or regular. I'm back with another retro read-along. I'm on a bit of a roll. I'm going to try to keep it going. Had a little free time today, so I thought, why not put it to good use? Today I'm going to be reading through a 4th edition module, which I don't think I have done before. I played 4E. I enjoyed 4E. I didn't play the Essentials version, which I think fixed some of the problems that sort of bedeviled the group that I played it with. Just in terms of combat balancing and other things. It was just a little bit of a slog at times, especially after the first few levels. Things could just get a little bit... What's the word I'm looking for? It's a little bit sluggish. A little bit sluggish. But I enjoyed it. It was a good time while it lasted. I played a Warlord, which I really liked a lot. I know a lot of folks have tried to bring the Warlord into 5th edition. I don't know that I've read any that have done it very well. But they're trying. Anyway, let's not get bogged down in 4th edition talk. In some ways, it is the forgotten edition. But there were some good things in it. Skill challenges people have brought over, people like a lot. I really like the concept of minions. I also like the idea of bloodied. When you would get to half hit points or whatever it was, you would be kind of what they would call bloodied, which I guess was indicating that you were visibly hurt in some way. It doesn't necessarily have to be a giant slash across your chest or anything, but it could just be the Hollywood, cut on your lip or something of that nature. But just something that you could show, creatures could see, and you could see what had taken some amount of damage. And then there were abilities and things that would activate off of that. So it was cool. Anyhow, we've got Revenge of the Iron Lich, which was suggested to me by someone on one of the Discord servers that I'm on. They really had nothing but just glowing things to say about it. And it's free. There's a link in the description to where it is on DriveThruRPG. I will also post it in the chat, just so that easy to grab. Kind of no reason not to give it a look, right? When it's got that low price of free attached to it. So, right? Why not? Why not indeed? All right. That is posted. This is for 4 to 6 16th level characters. I think it's about, the 4th edition went up to 30 or so, I think. So this would be kind of right around mid-level for 4th edition. According to the PDF, this is the anniversary edition. But updated and reformatted to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of its publication. I don't know if this was created for a 4th edition retro clone then, since I don't know when the original was published, if it was back in the day or for a recent clone. In any case, let's get into it. Here, let's get that adventure background. In times ancient, an infamous paladin artificer named Khaldun unearthed a cursed tome bound in the flesh of the first Medusa. Driven to madness by its secrets, he used the necromantic magic contained within to call forth an army of dread warriors from the netherworld. Though his assault was devastating, he was ultimately unsuccessful, and the mightiest crusaders of the realm banished Khaldun to the netherworld, where he would rot for eternity at the bottom of the river Dis. Unfortunately, rather than perishing in that bleak plain, Khaldun escaped his silt grave and thrived, amassing a legion of undead followers and erecting a tomb in which he could perfect his mechanical craft without interruption. It was not long before he shed his body and became a demi-lich. After several centuries of scheming, the undead warriors under the command of the Iron Lich have burst free of the netherworld, laying waste to not only the mortal kingdoms that exiled him, but also the exalted domains of the gods themselves. The Crusaders' quest is simple: stead the tomb and destroy the Iron Lich. All right, so there you have it. So this is of fairly wide import to the world at large, since it seems like this Iron Lich is basically looking to destroy everything in its wake. So I'm guessing 4th Core is a retro clone of 4th edition. I can only assume. Let's see. Under getting started, 4th Core is an unusual way of playing Dungeons & Dragons that departs from some aspects of the game's design philosophy. Make sure both you and your players are aware of what this adventure is, what it entails, and that everyone is comfortable with it. Don't inflict this on the unwilling. When in doubt, don't play. Well, good advice for any occasion. There's some materials. The on DriveThruRPG, the package comes with a bunch of stuff to print out. I did not download everything. I did not download the handouts or those cards, so we're just going to have to do without. It says to play this adventure, you'll need the Rules Compendium and the Monster Vault. I'm assuming this is 4th Core stuff, probably the core rules of 4th Core, and then a monster manual of sorts. I think we'll just make do. Okay, we have several sets of cards. I'm just going to skip over those. They're just basically references for stuff. Oh, I do like the concept of afterlives. When a Crusader is killed in the tomb during an encounter, have that player draw one of the 6 afterlife cards. Each afterlife card gives the player of a dead Crusader an encounter power that represents their spirit aiding his or surviving allies. The power granted by an afterlife card can be used at any time and are treated as immediate interrupts. That's cool. And when they re-enter the tomb with a new Crusader, which I guess is just the name for a player character, then they give back the afterlife card. So if and when you die in the tomb, you can hang around with your spirit. You get a power. And let's see, it's an encounter power, which is basically the same as a short rest power. You can use it, 4th edition, 5th edition borrowed a lot of stuff from 4th edition, but they changed around some stuff to make it more palatable to a larger group of people. And one of those things was rephrasing some of the powers that I think were off-putting to people just in the way they were termed. I think a lot of people think of a power that recharges on a short rest as more palatable to them than saying it's an encounter power, because the encounter power, I think to people, seems like it's more of a meta concept, but they really are the same thing. Same thing, you had daily powers in 4th edition, and you have long rest powers in 5th edition. It's basically the same, but just by tweaking the way they approached it, I think they got a lot of people to buy into it in 5th edition that I think were not fans of it in 4th edition. So in any case, to put in 5th edition terms, you'd get a short rest power that you could use as a spirit as you're going on with the living remainder of your party until you could get another PC involved. And we got treasure cards. Don't need to worry about that. Time limit. The Tomb of the Iron Lich is filled with a corrosive gas that is deadly to all creatures. From the moment the players enter Room A, they have 4 hours in real time to complete the adventure. If they are still exploring when the time limit expires, all the Crusaders die and the game ends in defeat. You are discouraged from pausing the timer at any point during the adventure. The party may take short rests, but extended rests are not permitted. Rituals that take longer than an hour to cast are likewise prohibited. All right, so this is kind of interesting. So you have a meta 4-hour game time. So this is really set up that you're going to run this in one session if you can get a 4-hour session. And maybe for people like me, that might end up being 2 sessions. But still, you have this very limited time, but it's meta time. It's not your characters have 4 hours. You, the players, the GM, you guys have 4 hours, which is definitely an interesting way to do it. It definitely puts an emphasis on being a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Efficient with your time. Not in terms of your player actions, but your character actions, but in terms of your players thinking, conversations, decision times, all that. I could definitely see having fun putting a big timer up somewhere where everyone can see as the doomsday clock is ticking down. And you can only take short rests. You can't take any long rests. And you can't do any rituals that take longer than an hour. So you're going to have to kind of do this in one go. When a Crusader perishes in the tomb, that player may re-enter with another character. If a player chooses to do so, the new Crusader joins the party at the end of the current encounter, or immediately if the death occurred outside of combat. Make the players aware of this rule before the game so that they have an opportunity to prepare or select backup characters. If a player chooses to sit out, allow them to still participate in discussions about potential courses of action, the solution to puzzles, and other adventuring strategies. So similar to a funnel, I guess they consider that, hey, you may want to prepare backups, but even if you don't, let the player sit in and kind of be that spirit, right, that's informing them, that's helping them out. The players take a 50-point penalty to their score each time a Crusader is slain, regardless of their choice to re-enter the game. See scoring at the end of the module. Scoring is something that a lot of tournament and modules that you played at conventions would have. That way you could compare adventuring parties to each other. So you would score them on different things. And it seems like, I think I saw somewhere that this might have had a tournament or a convention aspect to it. So the scoring is just important for at the end of everything when you're trying to judge how you did against other people, right? You would put that score. Total party kill ends the game. Replay. While it's certainly possible to complete the adventure on the first try, the players are encouraged and expected to attempt the scenario again in the likely event that they lose. Allow them to use their knowledge of the tomb to their advantage during repeat settings, even if their Crusaders wouldn't realistically have this information. So again, we're engaging this kind of meta aspect of the players, not unlike in a video game, right, where you restart the level that you died on. Theoretically, your character wouldn't know anything of what happened on that level, but you do, so you get to use that meta knowledge to do better. And they're acknowledging that and embracing it. Saying, yeah, go ahead. All right. Okay, I'm going to skip over stuff on custom Crusaders because we're not, for our purposes, I'm not really interested in that. Using rituals. All right, time is the factor. We're not tracking reagents. Can't do rituals longer than an hour. If a ritual has a cast time of 1 hour, it can be used once per game. Any other ritual may be cast once per milestone. All right, so there you go. With the exception of the ritual scroll of imprisonment, a ritual may not be cast during an encounter. Okay. We have another section on repeating skill checks. Crusaders should not be permitted to attempt a skill check again after failing. Exceptions to this rule are as follows: athletic checks to jump or climb, acrobatics checks for balancing, and thievery checks to disable traps. Recall that failing a check to disable a trap by 5 or more triggers the trap. Perception checks assume they are surveying everything within line of sight. All right, now we're going to see some of the adversaries here. The Dark Bishops. The tomb of the Iron Lich is haunted by dark bishops, faceless, hooded, and robed figures whose presence is known only by their deep atonal chanting. They watch intruders from afar, swiftly phasing in to attack only during the Crusader's moments of weakness. The first time a Crusader rolls a natural 1 on an attack roll or saving throw during their turn, 5 Dark Bishops appear in unoccupied squares the triggering Crusader can see. Whoa. All right, that's definitely creepy. So they come, they strike in moments of weakness, and here we're calling these moments of weakness when you roll a critical, or a critical fail. Now you'll see this block here. This is a 4th edition style block if you're not familiar with them. This is basically how all monsters were given these kind of card-like formats. You can see these Dark Bishops. They're level 16 minion artillery. So a couple things here. Minions were creatures that basically had the same stats as other creatures, but only 1 hit point. But they had to actually take that damage on a successful action of some sort. So you had actions in 4th edition that might do damage on a miss, but those wouldn't kill minions. It had to be damage that you did because you succeeded. I'm pretty sure. Artillery, they would give different roles to different creatures. I don't remember them all. Brutes were one. One for characters was Defender. I don't know if creatures were Defenders also. Soldiers, I think, were another one. And Artillery, they were just basically to give you a shorthand for thinking about how they would operate. So when we have a creature that is named as Artillery or given that category, we think of them that they're going to be doing distance attacks, as you imagine Artillery would. Oh, and there we go. Hit point 1, a missed attack never damages a minion. Well, there you go. And it acts after the character who triggered it. You see it's got armor class and saves. It can fly. It can also teleport. It's immune to some stuff. It has dark vision. Standard action, this is basically stuff it can do whenever it wants. It can, it can fire off these dark bolts. And right, it's an artillery, so it is a ranged attack, which makes sense. Does some force and necrotic damage and pushes the target. And it's got a death burst, which is something that is triggered when something drops the bishop, which is going to be easy to do since it has 1 hit point. Creatures within 2 squares, and those are 5-foot squares, take 10 force and necrotic damage. So these things are nasty. And forgive me, but I do not remember the whole power curve, so I don't know how nasty these things are as far as balancing. But given that you roll a 1 and 5 of them are popping up, and they're all exploding potentially, that could be some fun. Interesting, they're not immune to necrotic. I wonder if there were 2 dark bishops next to each other and one of them death burst, would that blow up the other one? That would be interesting, because it doesn't say they're immune to necrotic damage, so it doesn't seem like they're immune to their own death bursts. I don't know. A hypostyle. This sanctum is where the Iron Lich's servants once congregated. It is now a crumbling ruin. The cultists destroyed, and their souls drained when the Iron Lich shunned his body to become a demi-lich. Features of this room. The marble steps leading down to the hypostyle are flanked by burning skull torches. We've got some crumbling pillars with images of skeletal figures. Tattered banners bearing the symbol of a watchtower. A human skull with emerald eyes and a horned helmet sits atop a pedestal of controlled shadow in the center of the area. Ooh, I like that. A pedestal of controlled shadow. I'll have to mark that down for later. I'm not even sure what that means. It's like shadow that's been made substantive enough that you could sit on it. That's pretty badass. At the far end of the room, a skeleton draped in a tattered cloak reclines in a throne set atop a tier. A crimson blindfold is wrapped around its eyeless sockets. I suppose that I guess just that we know his sockets are eyeless, even though there's a blindfold wrapped around it. Maybe it just shows the indentations. And then we have exploration. I presume, and it's been a long time since I've read 4th edition material, but I'm guessing that this is the stuff that under exploration, right, that we're expecting the PCs to enter the room. We might mark out the features in our own style. We're not given a boxed text, so we would just go through that list and then put it together in whatever style we like. And then as the players have their characters investigate stuff, this is when the extra details under exploration would come to bear. So the torches, they're enchanted to burn forever. There's 6 of them. The banners are from a city-state that crumbled over 400 years ago. Let's see, I don't remember seeing the door in the other things, but there's a 10 foot wide iron door that has pull rings and has an inverted trident wreathed in flame and covered in snakes embossed upon it. If you get close to the pillars, you can hear wailing and the snapping of bone. If you touch one, oh my gosh. If you touch one, you are attacked. If you're hit, all of your bones are shattered. I don't even know. Is that just death? I don't even know I'm not even sure what that looks like. All your bones are shattered? That's just giving me the shivers. I don't know. Is there a heal? I don't even know in 4th edition what spell you would need to unshatter all of your bones. I'm guessing maybe that's it for you, but they don't actually say death, so I'm going to guess that's death. And then the skull, let's see, I'm guessing this is the human skull with emerald eyes and horn helmet. It's a replica of the Iron Lich. The gems are worthless quartz, and the helmet is smelted from weak iron. But the skull can be used to open a vault in another room, and it radiates scrying magic. All right, so let's see. We have a little box text here about honor in death. If you can make a high enough religion check, you can recall that the Iron Lich served as a paladin in an elite royal guard before becoming a magic user and then ultimately a lich. While he owes allegiance to no king, the Iron Lich is nonetheless proud of his service, so much so that the password to open the door in one of these other rooms is honor and sacrifice, the motto of the knights with which he served, which you can get from another history check. What were they saying in Gladiator? Strength and honor. But his is honor and sacrifice. Quintus, honor and sacrifice. All right, the throne is hollow and made of glass. Ooh, the muted sounds of screaming can be heard from within. Well, that is creepy. Which one is the throne? Is that... Okay, that must be the one that the skeleton in the tattered cloak is reclining upon. The blindfolded skeleton, if you come within 10 feet of it, it pulls a small gilded box from its side and opens it towards the adventurers. Inside is a deck of painted cards, which is the Deck of Mortals. I don't know what that is. Was that one of the things that was included in the box or in the adventure? I don't know. The skeleton silently offers each player, the opportunity to draw one. After a player has drawn, he or she may not do so again. Subsequent draws only reveal blank cards. Player suffers no penalty for declining. If threatened, the skeletons and cards disappear in a gout of ash and black flame. Interesting. Okay, the blind skeleton fires an enervating ray at any player character that casts a divination ritual to predict card draws. On a hit, the target loses 2 healing surges and is weakened until they reach their first milestone. The skeleton and cards disappear afterward. Ouch. So you don't want to test it, because it's just going to zap you. 4th edition, you had healing surges you could use to heal yourself, and you would get them back, I believe, on a short rest. I think milestones, what were they, after every so many encounters? I don't remember the exact number, if it was 1, 2, 3, whatever. You would get a milestone. So you would have this weakened state, and again, I don't remember exactly what the weakened state entailed, but it wasn't good, and you would hold on to that until you reach your milestone. So potentially you could be in that weakened state for a while. Okay, so here's the Deck of Mortals. Use the face cards, the aces, and the twos from a deck of playing cards to represent the Deck of Mortals. Once a card is drawn, that player keeps it, and the effect lasts until the end of the game. Casting the Remove Affliction ritual or making a wish can lift a negative effect from a Crusader. All right, I guess I'll read through these, right? Why not? All right, so the King is a Warlock. Whenever you spend a healing surge in an encounter to regain full hit points, you instead gain only temporary hit points. Wah, wah. That's no good. If you draw a Queen, you have drawn the Summoner. A Balor appears and attacks you. It disappears at the end of the 3rd round of combat. Yeesh. Yeah, Balors are pretty high ranking monsters. That could be bad. Let's see. The Jack summons is the Leper. You contract a disease, you automatically fail your saving throw against it and advance to its worst stage. Whoosh. I don't know how many diseases are in here, but that's That's no good. And you keep that till the end of the game. Okay, so I guess it doesn't follow you into other adventures, but purposes of this place, you do not want to get diseased. Aces are the jailers. You take a -20 penalty to initiative, and you cannot ready actions or delay. Oh boy. Slow down. A 2 of clubs. Oh, that was the ace of clubs. Oh, these are all clubs. Okay, I'm so sorry. The ones I've said so far are all clubs. 2 of clubs is the hangman. If you fail a death saving throw at any time, you immediately die. Whee, that's nice. Now we're into diamonds. King is the curate. You get 30 hit points. Your maximum current hit points increased by 30. Queen of diamonds is the charioteer. Your speed becomes 8, and you gain a +20 bonus to initiative. I'm guessing that's good. I don't remember the speeds. It was basically measured in squares, but I'm guessing that's pretty good. Because if you think of 30 feet, it's basically your speeds become 40 feet, right? 8 times 5. So that's good. Magician, gain 2 action points and training in 2 skills of your choice. You may spend more than 1 action point in an encounter. I don't remember exactly what action points were for. Seems like all these diamonds are good. That was the magician, which is the jack. Ace is the oracle. Know the answer to your next dilemma. That could be very powerful. The 2 of diamonds is the dancer. Gain a +5 bonus to athletics, acrobatics, and endurance checks, and you never grant combat advantage. Whew, that also could be quite powerful. And we're into hearts. The king of hearts is the lover. While you're adjacent to an ally, you gain resist 10 all and may use your second wind as a free action. Oh, that's very nice. Queen of hearts is the princess. You are immune to all harmful conditions except ongoing damage. Jack of hearts is the avatar. An angel of protection, which is a creature, appears in your service. If you die, it serves an ally of your choice. Well, that's very nice. I don't know how powerful angels of protection are, but certainly better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. Ace of hearts is the knight. Gain a +4 bonus to all defenses. In addition, you may use total defense as a move action. That's a good one. The Hierophant, 2 of hearts. Gain a magic item of your choice of 20th level or lower. You have 3 minutes to choose. Oh, I definitely like that one. Just in terms of you're giving them this huge choice, but then they only got 3 minutes. Get the 3-minute glass ready, turn it over, and let them panic looking for which magic item to take. Now we're into spades. Is the thief, the king. You lose all non-weapon, non-armor, non-implement items. If this causes you to lose the replica skull, which you got out of that room, you are imprisoned in a random fortune-telling card somewhere on the plane. No save. Wow, I'm not even sure what all that means, but that looks like you're out of the game. You're imprisoned in a random fortune-telling card somewhere on the plane. Yikes. Are there fortune-teller cards elsewhere in this dungeon? We don't know yet. Queen of spades is the Medusa. Whenever you fail a saving throw, you take 15 poison damage. If you roll a natural 1 on a saving throw, you die. Boy, that's, you combine that one with those bishops, and that's just a bad round. All right, the traitor. You are not considered an ally for the purposes of powers and abilities other players have. You may not count the other players as allies yourself. Yeah, you are a traitor. You are all alone. It's basically, anything harmful that they're doing where they were able to edit out allies, you were no longer able to get it edited out. So be careful where you're standing if you got that one. Ace of spades is the witch. While you take ongoing damage, you are polymorphed into a harmless small animal. While in this form, you can take no actions other than moving. You revert back to normal when you save against the ongoing damage. Reminds me of, was it Talisman, where you could turn into was it a toad? And the 2 of spades is the jester. You must roll twice on all attack rolls and saving throws and take the low result. Oh, there you go. So basically disadvantage on all attack rolls and saving throws. And then once everyone has drawn or passed, the skeleton disappears. And there's a note saying we could use the deck of many things instead. And there's a link if you want to go there and see how you might do that. Now we're into Area B. The Cobblestone Path. So this Cobblestone Path is narrow, trap-filled hallway that leads to the entrance of the tomb. So it is cobblestone set in the floor. It goes towards a set of heavy iron doors. A helmeted skull is embossed on the door's surface. We've got a 10-foot wide pit that's open. A faint emerald glow pulsing from its depths. The air is heavy with the odor of smelted iron, as if a forge burnt nearby. So we definitely have this theme of iron and things to do with iron. So it looks like from the, and I like the fact that we have the map of this area here to look at. So we could see we got double doors at either end. It looks like if we're coming in, we're going to come in from the bottom. There's that one pit that's open, and I'm guessing those other ones that we see are closed pits. So here we could see from exploration, the floor conceals 5 pit traps, each along the cobblestone path. The first pit is 10 feet deep, but the other ones are all 20 feet deep. Oh, each one is 20 feet deeper than the one before, to a max of 90 feet. The base of each pit is lined with dozens of upright replica wands of Orcus. A creature falling into a pit takes some damage from falling, and then necrotic damage from the wands. A creature that takes at least 1 point of the necrotic damage has a number of death saving throws they can fail in an encounter permanently reduced by 1 to a minimum of 1. Ouch. So I think it's like 5th edition. There were 3. So yeah, there you could just lose 1 and it's gone. That's rough. Okay, a creature that descends safely into a pit or survives the fall can maneuver between the wands without trouble. The western wall at the bottom of the first pit has crumbled away, revealing a narrow stairway. A second secret passage is hidden at the bottom of the 4th pit. A Marilith skeleton at the bottom of the 3rd pit clutches a broken rune key that, if made whole, can be used to open the obelisk in a room we will see later. So a couple things I like about this. It shows you the trap, one of the traps, and then of course you have to figure out where the other ones are. So if you are thinking smartly, you come across the first pit, and that maybe keys you on that, hey, look, this corridor goes on for a fair ways. Might there be more pits here? And then it also gives you reasons to maybe investigate the pits, from the stairway to the hidden passage to the skeleton with a key. You have reasons to kind of investigate these, not only moving across them, which you probably could. I mean, they're perception 31, DC 31 to spot, which I think is fairly high, but again, my 4th edition foo is old. But there's reasons to not just bypass them, but to actually check them out. You could find stuff that is worth your while. At the end, we have another double iron door. When you get in within 10 feet, a spectral skull appears. It demands a password. And the password it wants is honor and sacrifice. You got 30 seconds to answer. If nobody does, it warns, turn back now or face certain death. None shall breach the vault of the Iron Lich. And then it disappears. If you speak the correct password, it opens the door. Otherwise, they are locked. Ooh. A pair of flame jets fire from the skull's eyes each time a creature attempts to open the door while it is sealed or fails to break the lock. Well, there you go. And you can disable it with a high enough thievery check. Taking the false wands of Orcus. Remember, each one of these pits has these false wands at the bottom. Let's see. A player at the bottom of a pit can remove one of the wands. They are safe to wield, though they have no power outside of this room. However, touching a wand to any of the statues in the room causes that statue to wither away, revealing a potion of vitality. Touching a wand to the northern door unlocks it. There's another alternate way of getting to the door. If you were enterprising enough to go down into the pit, grab one of the wands and pull it, yank it out, there's some neat stuff you can do with it. Though that does require some thinking outside the box or just trying stuff, because I don't think we've been given any clues that that's what would happen with the statues. But cool. Does it even say what the statues are? Not really. Just that they're statues. Fane of Sight. This chamber hides the smallest of the Iron Lich's hordes. In this room, we have a small triangular chamber that's dimly lit by purple torches. 2 lidless black eyes are painted onto the plaster walls here, their gaze fixed on an empty pedestal in the center of the room. The pedestal, if you take the fake skull from that first room and place it on the pedestal facing the apex of the triangle, the section of the wall sinks into the floor, revealing the treasure chamber. Conjuring an illusion of the skull on the pedestal will also trigger it. That's interesting. Very cool, if you think about it. An object other than the skull is if you place an object other than the skull on the pedestal or the skull is placed in the wrong facing, the 2 eyes trap activates, blasting each target in the room with a cone of purple energy. And then the target eyes explode. Wait a minute. The target's eyes explode. Hold on. So that's the person. Wait a minute. I got to read this again. All right. The two eyes trap activates, blasting each target in the room. So that's the players. Blast them with a cone of purple energy. And let's see. They'll take a bunch of damage. Some of it's psychic. You get a basically disadvantage, a -5 penalty to perception checks going forward. If it gets at 19 or 20, the target's eyes explode. That would be bad. I mean, great image, but bad. There's a little box text here called "Suffer as I Do." Crusader, a player character making a history or religion check may recall that the Iron Lich suffered a wound in life that blinded him. Okay, that's interesting. Hopefully you maybe catch that reference before your eyes explode. There is some treasure in the vault that is beyond that wall. Presuming you can get to it. Got a scroll of view object, a circlet of clairvoyance, a nimbus of true seeing, 2 emerald eyes fixed into a mithril rendering of the Iron Lich's head, a magically preserved painting of a beautiful woman sitting outside a church, which, if you make a history or religion check, you can identify as the Iron Lich's former wife. Let's see. And there we have another box text. The Iron Lich's phylactery and the view object ritual. You can use the view object ritual to scry on the Iron Lich's phylactery. Or if you do, you see a gorgeous woman lying in an open sarcophagus flanked by angel statues. It is the same woman from the painting. Bum, bum, bum. The plot thickens, as it were. Now we get to the Hall of the Iron Golem Soul Driver. That's a mouthful, and it sounds not very friendly. A 4-armed iron golem powered by a soul engine waits for intruders inside a giant steel cube. Ooh, boy. That sounds lovely. Okay, so features of the room. This grand hall is decorated with masterfully rendered grotesques and silver tapestries that bear the icon of a helmeted skull. We've got some ornate pillars with cast iron chandeliers. Darkened balconies are 15 feet off the ground in each corner. The entire room has a low resonant vibration and hum. There's a massive steel cube, 20 feet to a side, that stands in the center of the room. Streams of magical energy leak from a glowing rune circle in the northwest corner. That's a really cool image. A magical energy leaking from a glowing rune. All right, so on investigation, okay, you can figure out that the humming noise comes from behind the walls and floor. And if you do an insight check, you can see that it is, or you can determine that it's the sound of thousands of churning gears and pounding pistons. The pillars are engraved with the images of people falling from a hole in the sky into a pair of grinding gears. Oh, that's a lovely image. Raised bumps run the circumference of the column at regular intervals. It's a form of clock tick, a language spoken by constructs. I'm not familiar with that, but that's very cool. I don't know if they made it up or it's from 4th edition or earlier. I just never ran across it, but I like that, clock tick. If a pillar is destroyed during combat, dozens of twisted skeletons tumble free from inside, their bones coated in blood and grease. They scream and crawl frantically toward the alcoves. More great imagery of these grease and blood-coated skeletons screaming and crawling. Let's see, the balconies. A rusted iron pillar supports a 15-foot high balcony in 3 corners of the room. A plague catapult lurks atop each. The pillar can be brought down with a standard action. Doing so brings the balcony down, destroying the catapult and making the following attack. Crumbling balcony. Close blast 3, which I think is an outward blast. It's not the... I don't remember. There were different attack patterns. You had lines, cones. Maybe blast is the one that's around. I don't remember. Okay, does some damage, knocks you prone, restrains you, and then you take ongoing damage. And you save to end the ongoing damage, but you're crushed to death if you fail 3 saves in a row. Or just 3 saves, sorry. They don't have to be in a row. The balcony in the northwest corner has already collapsed. So I like that. It's another one of those cues. When you look around the room, you see that one of those is collapsed, which cues you into that these things aren't, or that they can be brought down, and that potentially might be brought down, depending on what happens. Here we go. The rune circle. The decaying remains of a tiefling sorcerer with shattered bones lay on the ground near this hissing ritual circle. A creature moving into the circle triggers a random effect. Shattered bones. Another Shattered Bones reference. Stepping squares. Raised stone squares inlaid with the symbol of an inverted trident sit in alcoves in each corner of the hall. They glow with crimson magic. A creature entering a space with a stepping stone is teleported. And then we have a door, I guess, at the far end. This large double door is cast from solid mithril, and bears the image of a helmeted skull. There is a glittering fist-sized ruby in its left eye socket and only dust in the right. When a crusader moves within line of sight of this door, the ruby flashes with magic and the steel cube opens, releasing the 4-armed iron golem soul driver. The ruby in the door can be removed with no trouble over the course of a short rest. So it just takes you some time, but you can work out that ruby if you want it. If the ruby eye is pried from the iron golem's dead frame and fitted into the socket, the door slides open, revealing a switch. If the switch is thrown, there is a distant rumbling from the northeast. Inform the player that a pyramid has opened in the Temple of Extinction. This door cannot be forced open with thievery. If if a player character casts the knock on the door, the spell is reflected back. Oh my gosh. And if that reflected attack hits, the caster's ribcage and skull split open. Ouch. Though I kind of wish you would just say you're dead. I mean, okay, I could probably look at that and say your skull split open, your ribcage is also split open. That means you're probably dead, but I feel like it would be nice to know and just give that finality of, yeah, you die and this stuff happens to you. Though maybe someone could say, hey, no, I'm not dead. I'm not dead yet. They're just, oozing out their innards. Okay, altar down the western hallway. All right, so here we have we got a picture of that room. A wrought iron altar, traced in mithril, sits in an alcove between 2 of these rooms. A ritual book rests on top of it between 2 candles, radiating warding magic. If detected for... Oh, I see. If detected for, it radiates warding magic. So if you detected magic, you get a warding magic back. If the book is touched, the creature is attacked. And if it's hit, it forgets all rituals they know and loses training in a skill of their choice. The book then disintegrates. Ouch. But it's of your choice, so I guess I would rather... Hopefully it's a non-magic user that touches that, just so that they can choose a skill they don't really use, and they won't worry about losing a ritual. But of course, magic user types are going to be drawn to that book like flies to honey. Or bees to honey? Flies to meat? Whatever, you get my drift. However, if the puzzle in another room was solved, the book radiates teleportation magic instead and transports any creature touching it to another room. So it's got two options there depending on what else is going on. Okay, so here's the encounter description for dealing with his soul driver and those catapults and the pillars and all that jazz. Okay, so this is the player characters against the 4-armed Iron Golem Soul Driver and 3 Plague Catapults. Of the Soul Driver, the arms of this massive humanoid construct end in boulder-sized flails from which lethal poison gas seeps. Well, that's a lot of pain right there. A ruby eye is set into its skull-shaped faceplate. Each turn, it rushes towards the largest concentration of creatures, pummeling them until anything that lives stops moving. Oh, that's another great image. And then we have plague catapults. 3 immobile catapults hurl the diseased heads of decapitated bodaks down upon the center of the room. Wow. So, again, what a great visual. Not just heads of creatures, but literally bodaks. Flailing them down into the room. Counter ends when the soul driver is destroyed, or if the player characters run, the soul driver will not pursue them out of the room. Let's see. So if you have players who are dead, or their characters are dead rather, they can roll for the effects of the ritual circle and the plague catapults. You might also ask them to let out blood-curdling screams whenever a pillar is destroyed. I recommend that wholeheartedly. Definitely have them let out some screams for you. And here we have the stats of the 4-armed Iron Golem Soul Driver, 3-handled family credenza. It's got noxious fumes. The poison is combustible, and then it's got its soul engine. You can use its sensor flail. Ooh, a sensor flail barrage, which makes a bunch of attacks. Ooh, it's got a whirlwind with a sensor flail. And also a ghoul vomit spray. Oh, and there we have it. And the whirlwind recharges when first bloodied. So you get it down to half. If it used it, so I guess I recommend it, right? It's going to run into a bunch of people. I think probably at the beginning of the combat's the best time to do that. And then if it uses that sensor flail whirlwind attack, it can do it again once it's lost more than half its hit points, or half or more, whatever it is. Whatever that amount is. Oh, it says it right there. After it's lost 210 hit points, it can do it again. And then once in the encounter, it can use its ghoul vomit spray. And it's got some minor actions, the soul drive. It can then use the netherworld jaunt whenever it takes damage. Oh, it can teleport and become invisible. Wow. But it consumes a trapped soul. How many trapped souls does it have? Does it say? I don't know what that means. Oh, there it is. The golem. So under Soul Engine, the golem begins the encounter with 3 souls trapped in the iron spheres on its back. If you score a critical hit against the iron golem, you get to damage the engine and you get one of those souls out. And then once it's lost those souls, it can't use some of that, at least that one action again. So that netherworld jaunt only works when it has souls to use. So if you get some critical hits, you can sap the amount of doing it, but it can only do it 3 times because that's how many souls it has access to. And we have the plague catapults. It's got a necrotic attack. If you get out on the balcony, you can try to disable it. The stepping squares will teleport you around just to one of the other squares. Oh, of their choice. And they continue their movement. Kind of Pac-Man-ish. As you're kind of going off the board in one area, you're bouncing to another area. Ooh. If a creature is already standing on the destination square, both creatures are instantly killed. So be careful with where you're going. Now, 4th edition, given you're almost always playing it with minis on a board. I couldn't see ever doing that. But I suppose it might happen. It's possible. And here's the unstable ritual circle. Let's see. Triggered actions. Arcane Confluence. What does it do? You roll a d20. If you roll a 1, everybody in the circle's got to make a saving throw or be disintegrated. If you roll a 2, whoever triggered it has to make a saving throw or become entombed in a column of black ice. You could also gain a vulnerable 5. All. Oosh. Oh, until the end of the encounter. So bad, but not. Could be worse. You could forget a training and a trained skill of the DM's choice. That could be nasty. You get teleported 1d6 squares in a random direction. If you end up in something solid, you die. And if you end up in a space with something else, you both die. All right, nothing happens on 11 to a 13. You could gain some temporary hit points. You could draw a rumor, or the DM can verify and the DM verifies if it's true or false. You get an afterlife card, and you permanently gain that power. If you draw the resurrection card, shuffle it back. But you get 25 bonus points towards, I'm guessing this is end of game scoring. You get demon wings. You get a permanent speed of 6 with hover. And then at the end of the encounter, it dissipates, this circle. So interesting. So another big gamble. But of course, you might not know it when you run in. I guess if you ever see, leaking magical energy from some kind of glowing something or other, be careful. All right? Don't take it for granted. We enter the Crypts of Iron. Narrow catacomb hides 2 secret passageways leading to the Iron Lich's treasure vaults. It's an L-shaped hallway is lined by alcoves in which various iron-plated sarcophagi are standing. Cobwebs cling in thick patches to the tarnished steel walls. The pang of rust drifts on the stale air. All right, the sarcophagi alternate between gold and silver plating. Each has an angel with a gear-shaped halo embossed onto the lid. Let's see, if you're inspecting them, one is made of mithril and one is brass. I'm guessing the gold-plated ones are brass, or the ones that appear gold are brass, and the silver ones are mithril. Let's see. With the exception of these two and the last one to the northwest, each sarcophagus opens with a groan and contains an iron skeleton encased in plate armor. Or wait a minute. Oh, one of them is made of mithril, and then I see. Okay, so it's not all of them. It's just that there's one of these gold or silver ones. One's made of mithril, exactly one, and exactly one is made from brass. And other than the last one to the northwest and the brass and mithril one, all the other ones have iron skeletons inside in plate mail. The mithril one is empty, but the back opens up into a narrow but steep slope into another room. And the brass one is empty, and its back is a swirling crimson portal. If you enter that, you're going to go to another room. And then the one at the northeast, this inside of this sarcophagus, this must be a typo, because here it says the northwest. This one is suggesting the northeast. So I'm guessing maybe it's the northeast one, and northwest was a mistakey. I don't know. Okay, in any case, it glows violet and silver with necromantic runes. There's a humanoid-shaped indentation in the back. If you get in there, it slams shut and casts the Lich transformation ritual on them without a save. Give that player the "You Are a Lich" card. Nice. He or she is still an ally of the party and in complete control of their character. The sarcophagus only casts this ritual once per game. Other Crusaders who attempt the same act are instantly killed by energy drain. Yikes. So you get in there once, and you become a Lich. I guess I don't know what's on that card unless we'll see. So I don't know what powers and responsibilities and whatever else you get as a Lich, but that's a great twist. Area F is the Cave of the Obelisk. This secret cavern to the southeast of the outer tomb hides a massive obelisk filled with treasure. However, two half-white death giants guard against intruders. Half-white death giants, and white, W-I-G-H-T. Those don't sound very pleasant. I think if I had treasure to guard, I had the opportunity to employ half-white death giants. I think I might do that. I think that sounds like a good bet to me. I'm sure they had excellent references. So the ceiling disappears into heavy fog that casts silvery moonlight down onto a tall black obelisk. A wide, deep crevice swallows most of the ground. 3 spiky formations of rock and raw metals jut forth from the ground in columns. Sharp stalagmites riddle their surfaces, as do the dried bones of pit fiends impaled upon them. Boy, it's poor Bodaks and pit fiends. Man. Standing on either side of the obelisk is an emaciated death giant, each gripping a huge axe in silence. They appear to be in a trance. Yeah, leave them. You know, you see a death giant in a trance, just leave it alone. You know? So the crevice is a pit that's 30 feet deep with rough walls. The rotting, hollowed-out carapace of a purple worm runs the length of the crevice. You can make a check and notice undead creatures milling about inside the remains. Oh, that's kind of gross, but cool. You can make a further check and deduce that these undead are the worm's partially digested meals animated by the pervasive necromancy of the tomb. Also very cool. Crossing the pit along the narrow precipice and bridge requires an acrobatics check. In addition, a creature that ends its turn in a square adjacent to the crevice must make an acrobatics check or they fall in. If you fall into the pit, you're going to take a bunch of damage, and of course, undead creatures are down there. And they make a special attack against your fortitude, okay, which is like your constitution, basically. Take a bunch of necrotic damage, you get restrained, and you're going to take ongoing damage. Ooh, and you contract zombification. All right, so there you can take a save, or you can save to end the ongoing damage. It doesn't look like you get to save against zombification, but they say there's a section where we will learn more about zombification down below, so mayhaps we will see. The undead in the pit make this attack against any creature that starts its turn in the crevice. So it's almost kind of like a swarm. They're just treating it like it's basically a trap. There's just so many creatures down there, you're not going to be able to kill individuals and get out. You're just going to have to kind of get out. Oh, here it is. I'm just staring at it and not looking at it. Okay, so zombification is a disease. It is fast acting. You make a check at the end of each short rest instead of each extended rest because it's fast acting. Stage... let's see. How does that work? So I guess if you get zombification, you end up at stage 1. Your healing surge values are halved, and you're dazed. If you then fall to stage 2, you're forced to charge the nearest living creature on each of its turns during combat. That sounds poor. Stage 3, you're dead. If you get down to stage 0, you're cured. And I forget how diseases work exactly. I'm guessing you start at stage 1, and as you fail saves and whatnot, you get worse, and presumably something can happen to make you better. The spike formations, they're 20 feet tall and block terrain. If you end your turn next to one, you take 10 points of damage. Yikes. A creature pushed or slid into a square containing a spike takes even more damage and is restrained. Spike formation can be shattered by dealing 35 points of cold, force, or thunder damage to it. That's a nice touch. The obelisk itself is 30 feet tall. It's partially set into the cavern wall, and though its surface is cracked and weathered, it is reflective, and a living creature that looks at its reflection sees not themselves, but rather the image of an armored wight that mirrors their movements. And there's an illustration. If it's not in here, I didn't download it, so sorry for that. Creepy. The outline of a door is visible on the obelisk's surface. A silver keyhole is set into the middle. If the rune key from that bottom of that pit has been made whole, it can be used to open the obelisk. Otherwise, you're going to need to do some kind of arcana or thievery to do it. The interior of the obelisk is hollow and filled with treasure. See treasure. I will see it. A glowing sigil is clearly visible at the obelisk's apex. And it is you can identify it as a sigil of haste boon trap. There's a secret tunnel in a cracked section of the cave wall, and it's 6 feet wide. It's hidden tunnel that leads to. Oh, okay. So that's that trap, one of those pit traps, in that other room. And you could find it, and you could break it down by just athletics. So I guess you're just slamming into it to break it down, or break down the wall completely. Here we have treasure. We got a ring of drain resistance, a ring of the iron golem, a segment of wraith verge, a wand of disintegration, some mithril gear. I don't know what that is. I mean, I know the words gear and mithril, but when they say mithril gear, I don't know if that has a specific 4th edition meaning that I have forgotten. Spirit of Tirama, handmaiden of fate. It's trapped in a box and grants a wish if it's freed. And then let's see, of the wishes, you can learn an encounter power from their class of 20th level or lower. You can conjure any magic item of 20th level or lower. You can gain a permanent +5 to saving throws. You can gain a +5 permanent bonus to a skill. It can cast a ritual of 20th level or lower with a check result of 40, which I guess is going to probably be pretty good for those. It can raise the dead, or it can do something else at GM's discretion. All right, so here's the encounter for this room. The half-white death giants are in a trance. Nothing special in terms of sneaking, but if they're woken up, they attack. If the player characters manage to sneak up on the obelisk, they can make a stealth check, or they need to make a stealth check to open the door without alerting the giants. But once it's open, gathering the treasure won't alert them. So you can possibly sneak in, open the door, get the treasure out without waking the giants at all, which I like. Let's see. We have threats. Yes, we know that there are half-white death giants here. All right, so their tactics are essentially, if they're awake, they're going to attempt to knock people into the chasm with their axes. And then if particular characters are vexing them, they will use their energy draining touch, and they will fight until they are destroyed. And they will keep fighting until either they're destroyed or the party leaves. Oh, and say, okay, I like this thing that they give you some hints for what to do with players who are dead, right? So you can say, hey, player whose character is dead, you can roll some attacks. But I really like the flavor in the other room of them rolling or screaming. And here we have some stats for these half-white death giants. They're elite brutes. Brutes are definitely things that just want to get up close and personal and hurt you, so you tend to want to stay away from them if you can. They've got a soul catcher aura, a soul shroud. They can use their serrated great axes at will. They also have that energy draining touch is also at will. And a soul fire burst also at will. And then we have the sigil of haste. What is that? Let's see. Effect. One of those death giants within 10 squares gains an extra move and standard action on its next turn. Yeah, you don't want them to get that. I'm getting messages here. Nothing of note. Okay, please see can disable the sigil, but it's got to be done twice. Oh, I like that. And you can also try to redirect the sigil. And then an ally of that person can get the boon. So that's nice. I like that's cool. And now we enter the Iron Gallery. Greetings and tonight in the Iron Gallery. We've got silver mist and motes of crackling magic. A row of 4 iron statues, a 4-foot by 6-foot wide basin traced in mithril. Man, they had to work some dwarves to death to get all this mithril. That's in the middle. A crimson portal is set into an iron archway in the far west wall. And I like that they have the little picture here, and it looks like there's a secret area as well. So the mist radiates nondescript magic. Aside from being cold to the touch, it's harmless. Let's see, the walls. If you get close, you can see there are 2 murals embossed on them. The first mural depicts skeletons hammering down on a stone floor, and then the lower half shows etchings of recoiling humans. Touching. Their hands are outstretched as if they were reading from a scroll or tablet. Oh, no. Sorry. I jumped ahead. Portal. Okay. The crimson portal is set into a mithril archway with a symbol of gear at its apex. On either side of the archway, the walls are embossed with the side view images of 2 humanoid figures pushing against the portal. Arms are shown flailing in protest from the portal. Both of the humanoids have a single emerald eye from which tears of oil slowly drip. That is lovely. The eyes can be removed. They are needed later to open the secret corridor to another room. These emerald eyes are identical to those set into the helmeted skull found at the beginning of the dungeon. Oh my gosh. Any PC passing through the portal is destroyed, and their spirit becomes trapped in one of the soul spheres in the Iron Lich's crypt. Yoicks. So don't do that. Okay, here now we get to the statues. 8 statues. Let's see. Aged kings sitting atop a high throne. They look down upon the hall with deep scowls. Their hands are outstretched, as if they were reading from a scroll or tablet. However, their hands are empty. Ask each player to make a history check. If they make it, they can recognize one of the kings. And then we have a list of kings. The basin. Inside the basin is a stack of iron tablets, each with a letter of the common alphabet etched onto their surface. Crusaders inspecting and sifting through the plaques find there 27, one for each letter, plus a second eye that is rendered in mithril. Ooh, disturbing the plaques triggers a trap, which seals the exit. In addition, the faint sound of whirring gears and rushing sand echoes from somewhere in the walls, which is an hourglass. And then we begin a 5-minute countdown. If they don't solve this puzzle before the time expires, the cloud kill trap activates. Wow. The puzzle, okay, the solution of the puzzle: slide the tablets into the hands of the kings in such a way that they spell in order going around the room Iron Lich. This is done, the arcane lock ritual ends, and the curse on the altar between the rooms is lifted. If another word is spelled, or if the plaques are not affixed facing the statues, a cloud kill trap issues forth. All living creatures in the room must make a check or lose a bunch of healing surges. If you lose all your healing surges, let's see. A creature reduced to 0 fewer healing surges through the remainder of their life in seconds. What? Before perishing. I don't understand quite what that means. But I guess basically if you lose all your healing surges, you die. And then the flock fades after the trap is sprung. If the puzzle is solved with the mithril eye in the hands of King Nictus, a secret door opens up in the northeast corner of the hall, a shortcut to the altar. That's kind of cool. And there's a box text telling us why King Nictus of those kings. King Nictus was the only ruler to avoid meeting a terrible end. In fact, Nictus was famous for his string of military victories and conversion crusades, which is why he was idolized by the Iron Lich. And I'm guessing it said that in that list. No, it just says King Nictus apprehended and executed a would-be assassin. But you can't make a history check. I kind of would like that merged in with the other one. That way when we're going through, I'm queued up to the fact that there's a value to an additional history check about that, but it's a small matter. Let's see. The secret door is visible only to those with true sight or if you make a high perception check. Now we get to the Dismal Descent. Okay, it's a deadly chamber that conceals a portal to a vault containing the most valuable treasures of the Iron Lich. All right, got to be good. Here we have the features of the room. Broad steps coated with dust ring a bottomless chasm towards a landing at the far north end of the chamber. A colossal statue of a woman wearing a horned helmet rises against the east wall from the darkness below. She's blowing a kiss, and her eyeline is level with the stairs. 5 thick steel pikes jet up from the chasm. Hundreds of bodies, charred beyond recognition, writhe on the pikes and scream out for help. Lovely. All right, the statue's the Iron Lich's wife. Let's see. So she's a trap, but if you can solve the puzzle, her mouth will open and reveals a portal to another room. Okay, you can leap the pikes. You can leap onto a pike with an athletics check. The scorched bodies will plead and grab at anyone holding one of these pikes. Meaning that you'll give up combat advantage to anything attacking you. Oh, let's see. When the kissing flame trap activates, the impaled humanoids will all shriek. There's cool atmospherics. Cool atmospherics there. See, the north door does not open. It is a false door. However, 3 pyramid-shaped indentations are set on its surface with the following symbols displayed above each. Burning tome, inverted trident, 6-fingered hand. 6-fingered man was there. If the pyramid keys with the matching symbols are fit in the appropriate slots, the mouth of the kissing statue opens, revealing a portal. All right, so here's the encounter. And if you're getting a theme here, right, so we have sort of encounter, then a little bit of exploration, then encounter, a little bit of exploration. That's kind of the 4E style, right, of kind of these big encounter spaces. They're not necessarily big, but kind of encounter space, a little bit in between encounter space. So in this particular encounter space, we've got a Wraith Phalanx captain that's floating around, attacking anybody. He goes for the strongest, and he has an endless horde of Wraith Legionnaires that prevent the rest of the party from avoiding the pushing walls trap, which we'll see below. The statue kisses flame onto the pikes. And this particular situation ends when you get all the keys, solve the door puzzle, and then leap through the portal in the statue's mouth. So here we have a checklist for this encounter. This encounter is quite complex. It definitely sounds like it. All right, so we can use this checklist to remember the actions we need to do. So on the first round of combat at initiative count 0, which is the end of the round, entrance to this chamber will seal shut. You can give player characters outside the room the option to leap into the nearest unoccupied square on the steps. So basically, you're giving them a last chance if the party were split and some of them were in the other room and some of them were in here, you can give those guys a chance to jump in at the last second. At the end of the second round of combat, the area shaded red on the map retracts into the walls. Where's that? Okay, that part retracts away. Let's see. Anybody there's got to try to make some acrobatics or other check, or they fall into the chasm. I'm guessing the chasm is just death. And then at the 7th round of combat at the end, the northern door is sealed by a mithril plate. And then at that point also, the mouth of the giant statue opens and releases a swarm of 99 dread wraiths that tears the Crusaders apart. the game ends. All right, so basically you got seven rounds to figure this out, or you're dying. And then on every round, we have to resolve the wall trap. We have to attack with the Kissing Flame trap. We have to generate minions, and then attack with the Wraith Phalanx Captain. So there is a lot going on. You can imagine, now, of course, 4th edition, you're pretty much expected to be using minis and everything, but still, there could be a lot to handle. Here we've got the Wraith Phalanx Captain. He's the master of the Bodiless Legion, and it's an aura that allows allies, they can shift 1 square, basically taking a 5-foot step after hitting with a melee attack. It's insubstantial, so it takes half damage, except for force damage. But if you hit it with radiant damage, it basically loses this until the start of its next turn. And it has the Slaying Sword, and it does extra necrotic damage to anybody that's marked. Similar to, I guess, they still have that, right? Rangers or whatever have kind of Hunter's Mark. Is that what it's called? Hunter's Mark? Basically, 4th edition had, certain classes and creatures could mark people. So at the start of your turn, you would mark something, and my groups would generally put a little poker chip or something underneath to show it as being marked. So apparently the Wraith Phalanx Captain can mark creatures and then do extra damage to them. And then it can use its Greater Sword of Draining, which again is sucking out healing surges. Yeesh. It has some minor actions. The Challenge of Shadows, which you can use twice, once at the beginning and once after it's being bloodied. It's a burst. So maybe the burst is the circular one and the blast is that? I don't remember. You just don't want to be nearby it, I guess, in the case that thing goes off. It can command undead, then it's got some kind of reaction type actions. Smite the living. And it has some taunts. You will bow to the Iron Lich, living or dead. Stand with the Legion vast. You cannot stand against us. All beauty will rust, even yours. Destroy them! There you go. Okay, and then when it dies, it lets out a discordant wail before imploding into a stationary sphere of annihilation. Any creature touching the sphere must save or be obliterated. Yeah, so don't touch it. And we've got some Wraith Legionnaires. That's the Endless Hordes. They're calling it a hazard, so essentially, it's basically part of the room. And they just attack you. So it's not even really a creature in the classic sense. It's more or less just a condition of the room. And then we have some minions, the Wraith Legionnaires. And then we've got the Pushing Walls and Retracting Stairs, which is a trap. And then let's see, we've got so the sides of the walls are open, so you can jump inside the hollow space that's kind of behind the wall. You have to use a readied action and then make a check. And let's see, if you do that, you get inside and you can get the pyramid key. And then you basically get to bounce outside again. If you don't make the check, you're crushed. Take a bunch of damage, but at least you don't get pushed into the chasm. And then there's a bunch of these pyramid keys etched with falling symbols, and you have to put the right ones in that section. The Kissing Flame, it goes right after the walls, and it basically sends out another blast. I think if you've jumped on one of those pikes, the flame tries to kiss you. And there we go. Area I, the Temple of Extinction. An iron pyramid in this temple contains the Steel Sun Amulet, an item that will allow the crew, it says Crusaders. I don't know if that's something from this 4th core. Instead of saying the pair characters, something else, they call them Crusaders. Allows the player characters to ascend the Phantom Stairway in Room K and access Secret Room. Oh, okay, just 2 more rooms. One of one is a secret room. There's a switch here. I guess if there was a switch. There was a switch in a previous room, which will basically nullify the traps and opens the Iron Pyramid, revealing the amulet. And then it will also open the other doorway. Here we've got, let's see, dozens of rusting iron pillars support a broad, flat ceiling 30 feet overhead. The walls are corroded and buckling. The groaning of metal regularly pierces the otherwise heavy silence. There's a 10 by 10 foot tall black steel pyramid that rises from the floor at the center of the room. Rivets dot its surface. There are vast murals etched on the walls of various humanoid creatures. The door to the west is magically sealed and embossed with a 6-foot diameter gear that burns white hot. If you touch the door, you're going to take some fire damage. It opens if the amulet is removed. The pillars are covered in rust and corroded through in places. Despite their disrepair, they are sturdy. Let's see. You inspect the pillars closely, you notice tiny mechanical scarabs crawling inside of them. That's nice. The pyramid is solid iron and radiates warding and conjuration magic if you make the proper check. It's got the amulet inside of it. The murals depict many civilizations and races the Iron Lich has rendered extinct. Lovely. Let's see. You can recognize some of that by making the proper history, nature, or streetwise check. If you roll over at 33, you will remember that they were decimated with a weapon known as the Kopesh of Extinction. All right, so there is an encounter here, and that will trigger if you move next to the pyramid. And then if you do that, the door that you came in from will magically seal. All right, and so the monsters, in this case, are a demi-lich-like eye of tricks and traps and a whirlwind of living, invisible, dancing, vorpal Kopeshes of Extinction that emerge from the top of the Iron Pyramid. Well, that's a mouthful and a deathful. They fight until destroyed, regardless of anything else. Additionally, we've got some iron nails coated with the bone dust of the extinct. Oh, sorry, nope. Iron nails coated with the bone dust of the extinct blast out at the Crusaders from holes inside the pillars. Well, that is wonderful. Whirlwind of living, invisible, dancing, vorpal Kopeshes of Extinction. Oh, boy. That is... All right, it's a living trap and also a swarm. It is a lurker. So a lurker, we saw their brutes before. We also saw artillery. The lurker is something that likes to... It's an ambush predator type. It can make a swarm attack. It's invisible. It's got the Kopesh swarm it can do. It's got an encounter power called Exterminate, which just reduces somebody to 0. Effect. The target dies. What the heck? Wait a minute. This is a trigger. Oh, I see. So if it kills somebody, this is kind of cool and also really crazy. If the whirlwind reduces somebody to 0, so not even kills them, reduces to 0, then as a free action, it does end up killing that individual. And every member of its race on all planes is instantly killed. Any allies, so any other player characters of the same race are also killed. And then any characters generated for later attempts to enter the tomb cannot be of that race. That is great and also just horrifically foul. So you're playing Dragonborn, the whirlwind takes you down to 0, it kills you and every other Dragonborn across the multiverse. Wow. So I think I would just feed it a Kender because I just don't like Kender. And so yeah, take this Kender offering and exterminate them from the universe. And then it's got this at-will power, scatter into the netherworld. If it takes 25 points of damage or more from a single attack, then the whirlwind is removed from play until the start of its next turn. And then when it returns, it appears next to the pyramid, invisible to everybody without true sight. Okay, so it basically just moves out of existence for a moment. And then when it dies, the kopeshes become visible and clatter to the ground. Seconds later, they rust away to nothingness, leaving a crimson burn on the iron floor. And then the trap, the bone dust nails of the extinct. A nail cloud, close blast, special. Takes necrotic and poison damage. And then conditions until the end of the counter, that's stack. Visions that daze them. Oh my gosh. Dust into their bones, making them brittle. You gain vulnerable 10 to everything. The dust settles on muscles and lungs, weakening them. The dust gets into the brain. They are dominated. The dust gets in the eyes, blinding them. Or the dust causes them to begin hallucinating and experiencing the passage of time much more slowly. They are slowed. And you can get more than one of those. There is a countermeasure. You'll see once per round, you can use a minor action to try to resist the dust. And if you do that, you get a bonus to your next save against it. Okay. So I suppose you could try to prep yourself for the dust, but still, that's pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. Oh, yeah, I forgot. There's this other thing. Eye of Tricks and Traps. It's a controller. That is another 4th edition enemy type. Though I think player classes had the control type also. It's all about controlling the battlefield, terrain, things like that. This thing has a Trap Master aura, basically making traps more effective when they're within 10 of it. It's got the Puzzling Couplet. Does psychic damage. And any creature attacking that target gains advantage. You can conjure up a trap. It's got an encounter power of the Curse Wrought Riddle, which could do psychic damage. It's got some triggers here. Projected image. When it's hit, it teleports. And the triggering creature grants combat advantage. So then it teleports away from you, and now anything attacking you has advantage against you. Then when it dies, it sparks and shudders and then explodes into a cloud of bone and shrapnel. The explosion leaves a black mist in the air that never dissipates. There is really great imagery here. And here we have a skill challenge. Skill challenges were something that 4th edition introduced. This one, I don't remember the exactness of how these things worked, so it's level 19, it's complexity 2. I think that parens means you need 6 successes to succeed or 3 failures to fail. The objective, you have to force the Iron Pyramid open. Stuff you can do: dispel the magic wards, disrupt the nether runes, disable the mechanisms, or use brute force. And you can see here they've given a pretty balanced list of things that presumably just about any party will have some mix of these to do. If you succeed, the pyramid opens. If you fail, then the pyramid's defense mechanism will activate, an arc of lightning, and then the pyramid sinks into the floor, sealed in by a steel plate once it's fully sunk. Now we get to the Trial of Chests. Let's see. The Iron Lich's largest hoard is hidden amid 2 fake caches that turn any that disturb them to gold. Oh, that's kind of cool. All right. The walls of this low-ceiling chamber are covered top to bottom in peeling plaster murals depicting naked men and women being corralled into carriage-sized iron maidens by armored skeletons. Oh, that sounds like fun. Okay, on the west wall, there are 3 alcoves lit by torches that each contain an oversized chest. One is bronze, one is silver, one is copper. A plaque is fixed to a dais before the alcoves. There's a gilded door bordered by... shook the whole table there. Bordered by an ornate archway that is set into the east wall. And then we have a solid gold statue of a robed human figure that lies broken on the floor. Its jaw is missing. All right, so on the walls... We'll see the plaster. It's old and cracked. If you pull down the plaster, it reveals a massive plaque on the wall, which has this illustration. The letters are no known script. They are, in fact, a cipher for the swords puzzle in room L. I don't remember the swords puzzle, but okay. And here is the cipher for that handout. Let's see, the broken statue. It was once a living person, a wizard who was petrified while reaching into something, presumably one of the chests. The gilded door is a one-way door that leads out. It appears as a blank wall from the other side. The plaque, written in common, reads, "The Iron Lich speaks 500th not, but once. The treasure is in the bronze chest. The treasure is not in the silver chest. The treasure is not in the bronze chest." The etching on the plaque is a puzzle whose answer, silver, reveals the true hoard. Oh, it's sooth. Sorry, not 500. Let me do that again. "The Iron Lich speaks sooth, not but once. The treasure is in the bronze chest. The treasure is not in the silver chest. The treasure is not in the bronze chest." There you have it. And then the etching silver. Okay. Chests. Each chest stands about 4 foot tall and is immovable. None are locked. Opening the silver chest reveals a mound of treasure and coins embossed with the Watchtower emblem of Stormhold. The bronze and copper chests both contain a mound of false treasure. However, if either is disturbed, a thieves' curse is laid upon every creature in the room. Well, I guess with a save. On a hit, the target is permanently transformed into a gold statue. This attack repeats each time the contents of the bronze or copper chests are touched. The cash in the silver chest is real and can be taken without incident. And then we can see the treasure. Now, the plaque actually mentions bronze twice. But I guess they mean bronze and copper? I don't know. Seems weird. Okay, so the treasure, scroll of whispers of the edifice, a scroll of imprisonment, an amulet of false life, a mask of the Baelor, spiked bracers of the dread knight, segment of wraith verge, and wings of wrath. And I don't recall what all these things are. I'm sure they are cool. As I hit my mic. The spectral stair. All right, we get the final ascent to the crypt of the Iron Lich. And the entrance to a secret corridor is also hidden here. So we got at the north end of this balcony chamber comes to an end at a deep chasm. Intense heat and the sound of thick bubbling reverberate from the darkness below. We have a wide flight of ethereal black stairs lit every 10 feet by hovering green flames. Green flames! Spans the gap, ascending into darkness. 2 robed statues flank the spectral stairs on either side, each carrying a brazier of black flame, or a brazier. Brazier? Brazier is like a bra. Brazier, I guess. The 12-foot wide by 15-foot tall face of an attractive woman juts from the south wall. She's flanked by 2 well-preserved silver banners that have been embroidered with a winged gear. All right. Seems like there's a lot to unpack here. The stairs are insubstantial. And if you step on it, you're going to fall through. If you're wearing the Steel Sun amulet, they can walk on the steps as if they were solid. And this is true for anybody who is touching somebody wearing the amulet. So you can form a nice little chain and then march your way up the stairs that way. But once the once the character who is wearing the amulet gets off the stairway, the effect ends. So you got to figure out how that order is going to go once you get to the top. Okay, if you don't have that amulet, you have to come up with a different plan. And that might be ropes and climbing to flight. Be prepared to improvise. You could use a complexity 2 or 3 skill challenge if you deem it necessary. All right. The chasm drops down 100 feet into an underground lake of boiling mithril in which armored-plated kraken ghouls swim. Creatures falling in the lake will not survive. Yeah, I didn't think they would. Boiling mithril with, and I said like there's going to be one, but there's multiple Armor-plated Kraken ghouls. That's not a recipe for life. It just isn't. The face is that of the wife of the Iron Lich. Her eyes are empty sockets. If you've got some of those rubies from another room, you can slap them in there. If you were able to make a check, you can reveal that the mouth of the face opens, though you can't really see the mechanism or the trigger. It can't normally be forced open, but you might maybe with knock or pass wall spells. Let's see. If you fail, the balcony becomes ethereal, and anybody who can't fly is dropped into the boiling mithril. In the hallway to the west, connecting to this room and another room, there's a pair of statues depicting the same woman. The eye sockets in both of those are empty. The 2 emerald eyes from the skull and the 2 from the other room fit perfectly. If the 2 rubies and 4 emeralds are put into place, the mouth of the face opens with a loud rumbling, allowing egress into a mirrored stairway that leads down to a secret room. The secret stair. The walls are polished mirrors. They reflect an intolerably bright light with no apparent source. The PC's reflections show them not as living creatures, but as clockwork constructs. Very cool. The door at the bottom of the stairs is clean stained glass, fitted only with shades of black and gray. It opens into room L, if anybody's wearing that amulet. Otherwise, it's impassable, just impassable. Even with rituals, it is impassable. Sorry, can't get through. Okay, so we already knew that one-way door would appear as a blank room. This door is sealed and impassable unless opened from the other side. Okay, that's fine. Silver Maw of Battle. So this is another kind of puzzle room. A puzzle in this regal hidden chamber conceals a powerful artifact capable of destroying the Iron Lich. All right, so here we've got an ornate arched ceiling, 20 feet up. It's tiled with crimson marble. On either side of the hall, we've got 10-foot-tall statues, each bearing the likeness of a man or woman encased in fluted plate mail. They've got marble spears which point towards an elegant fresco painted on the curved ceiling. There's a pair of crossed swords that hangs from the wall in the space between each figure, the tempered steel blades shimmering in the light. There's a cobblestone path that snakes between the lines of statues. A small silver niche, barely 3 feet wide and 6 inches high, is visible in the far wall. All right, so we got these swords. Look like they're made of steel. However, let's see, if you inspect them, they're not, let's see, wait a minute. 4 of them are silver instead of being steel, and they can be removed easily. The 4 silver swords has a line of glyphs etched onto their surface. They are not a language, but rather a coded message whose cipher is behind the plaster in that other room. You can give them the 4, okay, there's some cutouts. Shuffle them before you hand them out. And if they are decoded, they'll read in common. All right. Oh, okay. So they're reversed and stripped of vowels. So if you decipher this, then you get, hear the prayer which we offer, and deign to grant us what we ask, on earthly prosperity and victory, and in death to reside in paradise. There, you've got that. Okay, if you do all that and make a check, you can recall that that's an ancient battle chant from the Royal Guard of Stormhold. All right, so then you can notice that potentially notice that one of the statues is also silver rather than marble. Otherwise, it's the same as the rest. And then that one silver one, you see, you can push it to the side. If you do so, you'll find a 3-foot by 3-foot silver panel. 4 slits are visible, each about the width and depth of a long sword, fitting you. So you put the 4 silver swords in there in a way that correctly orders the hymn, and that triggers a loud click. But if you do so in the wrong order, a different click, but that's a trap. The Silver Maw, 3 feet wide by 6 inches high. Let's see, it's got a horizontal slot. You can make an insight check. The slot is intended for edged weapons. All right, and we got that. If an edged weapon is stuck into the mouth before the puzzle is solved, the weapon is devoured. Ooh, and whoever's holding it is instantly killed by energy drain. And their spirit becomes trapped in one of the soul spheres. All right, if an edged weapon is stuck into the mouth while the silver swords are in the wrong order, it's also devoured. In addition, the face sends a bolt of crimson lightning through the weapon's haft, shocking the wielder. So, potentially death, but not absolutely death. Okay, if you put an edged weapon after the puzzle's solved, ooh, you get Vorpal runes etched onto the blade's surface. You can only get it once. And then the section of the wall will open, revealing a dark alcove. Inside is a grotesque wrought iron statue holding a gem cut in the shape of an eye. The gem is an arcane oculus of clarity. The statue clutches the third and final segment of Wraith Verge in its other hand. All right, so cool stuff there, but you gotta get it right. And now we get to it at last. The Crypt of the Iron Lich. Here, they confront the Iron Lich in his crypt. If they arrive healthy with relics in hand, the encounter will be quick and decisive in the hero's favor. If not, a total party kill is almost certain. Ambient silver moonlight illuminates this vast, multi-tiered crypt. Smog chokes the air and fills it with a scent reminiscent of a burning village. Yummy. A colossal mithril plate in the shape of a gear has been inlaid in the floor ahead. A cluster of 4 pillars stands in the eastern wing of the room. The sound of the churning cogs inside them is audible. And then finally, 2 statues of angels with gear-shaped halos flank an open sarcophagus on the highest tier. A pearlescent tapestry stitched with the image of a helmeted skull hangs above it. So we got the gear imprint. If you insert a mithril gear that's from another room, it seals in the congregation of Lich necromancers, which is part of the encounter that's going to happen here. In the sarcophagus, while the Iron Lich necrolith is alive, the sarcophagus is empty. After it's destroyed, let's see, character with the arcane oculus of clarity can see the magically preserved corpse of a woman inside. It's the Iron Lich's former wife. She is his phylactery. It's a very nice thematic touch there. The pillars rumble with the sounds of gears, and there are runes and clock tick engravings over them. More soul spheres. They sit on pedestals of swirling shadow. There are 4, none of which are visible from the entrance. Okay, so as soon as the players' characters come in, the encounter starts. The main threat is going to be the Iron Lich necrolith, which lumbers towards them, impaling as many creatures as it can reach while firing lethal gases and vorpal saw blades from its mouth. Yum. On the second round of combat, a congregation of Lich necromancers rises from the section of the floor marked with a gear. If the Crusaders fit that gear in, like we saw earlier, that traps them and they don't show up. Once the necrolith is destroyed, the Iron Lich emerges from the wreckage. The final battle ensues. Whew. All right, so, and when does all this wonderful end? When the Iron Lich is defeated or when the phylactery is destroyed using the arcane oculus of clarity. So the necrolith, solo brute, meaning it's something that wants to get in close and personal. It's got body spikes. It can grab things at will. It can gather the damned, which makes it more grabbing attacks. It can lift and impale. Then it's got an action that recharges called tumble mines, which I guess are some kind of mines. Let's see. If a tumble mine passes through a square occupied by a creature or filled with blocky terrain, the mine explodes. Lovely. It can also send out paralyzing gas and rusting gas. And then it's got a free action called the Razor Jack, which is one of those saw blades, I'm guessing. Doesn't do a heck of a lot of damage, but if it critically hits you, you're killed. You're being decapitated. And then it has some triggered actions it can do. Body spike ejection. Impenetrable armor. Let's see. And then, what's the impenetrable armor? Okay, if you hit it with something that it can save against, the necrolith makes a saving throw against the effect. Okay. Not sure what that means. All right, and then if you kill it, the Iron Lich is free, and then it jumps into the fray. And we got the Necromancers. Necromantic Aura, Swarm of Freezing Claws. It's like a swarm. It's got some nasty stuff. Vampiric Touch, Freezing Claw, Swarm of Claws, and Enervating Tendrils. You can teleport around. It's got some minor actions. Altogether nasty. And then finally the Iron Lich. It's immune to a bunch of stuff. It's got nether damage. What is nether damage? Nether damage is identical to necrotic damage, except it can never be healed. Ooh. So this is really a, what is the word I'm looking for? A Pyrrhic battle here, because it's hitting you and you can't get those hit points back. Rage of Iron, Tears of Rust. When it's bloodied, oh my gosh, all of its attacks that succeed become critical hits. Oh, that's nasty. It's a Soul Reaver. Let's see. It begins the encounter with 3 souls trapped in gems in his eyes and teeth. Whenever a living creature dies in the crypt, he gains another trapped soul. Oh, I see. So that's really nasty. So if you're in a few forays of this, you might have just been powering up the Iron Lich. You can have up to 8 max. It's got that Nether Ray. That does necrotic damage, but it can't be healed. Oh, I see. No, it does necrotic damage, but the Iron Lich can consume one of its trap souls to deal nether damage instead. It's got this at-will attack called Steel and Shadow, which can make 2 Nether Ray attacks and a Curse of Life attack. Wow, it could just do a bunch. It's got this Curse of Life attack, which recharges. Man, and it takes 2d8 necrotic per healing surge they have remaining, so it almost damns you if you have more healing surges left. Oh, that's just nasty again. And it's got Chain Blightning. Chain Blightning. And in the chat, happy Dead Friday to all. And this encounter looks like there might be a lot of Dead Fridays. Let's see. So that, what does the Chain Blightning do? If it hits you, it does lightning and necrotic, and then it can use up one of its souls to do nether damage instead of necrotic damage. Miss half damage, and they can't convert to nether. Oh, as a minor action, once per encounter, it can do Power Word Kill. And then it also has this reactive armor plating. Let's see. Oh, okay. I guess this is just like that other one. It just says, hey, you could just make a saving throw. But then it can consume one of those souls to gain resist 50 all until the start of its next turn. Life to unlife, which gets to do twice, one time on either side of being bloodied. Let's see. A living creature within 5 squares regains hit points. Oh, that's the trigger. Oof. And then the effect is, nah, you don't get to heal. Instead, you take that nether damage equal to what you would have healed. But any surges you spend are still expanded. So that is brutal. And we got some taunts here. Bow to me. If you die here, there shall be no afterlife. I have seen to that. I have watched your gods die. You cannot possibly defeat me. I think that chewed up my voice. And then, whoops. And we have some magical terrain with the soul spheres and the clockwork columns, which have the trait of precarious runes of power. You can get blasted by magic, which is lovely. And then at the end of all of this, let's see, it says, like all of his kind, the Iron Lich will rise again if his phylactery, the preserved corpse of his wife, is not destroyed with the arcane Oculus of Clarity. She is only visible on the sarcophagus to a player character bearing the Oculus, and only if the necrolith has been destroyed. However, if the Player characters found the ritual scroll of imprisonment. They can cast it on the remains of the Iron Lich's skull after reducing him to 0 hit points. This banishes him to a demi-plane, putting an end to his schemes. That is, until someone tries to free him. And then we got some tournament scoring, right? How far you get, some different bonuses for quests, bonuses for time, and then penalties, and then a final ranking. If you can manage to somehow get over 960 points, you were godlike. So there you have it. Revenge of the Iron Lich. A couple of notes from the chat. Frederick says, I made characters for 4E, but never got a game going. Yeah, I mean, I played 4E a bunch at the very beginning and then kind of fell out of it further on. It was a fun system. You definitely kind of needed minis to run it. Theater of the Mind is pretty much impossible. I think this is the one time that they basically said that you just have to run it with minis. It's just kind of the way the game was built. So not bad, but you kind of need to have that of some kind. The combats were very tactical, which was fun, but they could also go long. And I found that there was at some point that just the combats would go on longer than you had interesting things to do. And so there would just be these moments where you end up in kind of too many battles in which you're just sort of doing your basic thing over and over again. And because your basic actions are kind of circumscribed, they're very detailed in sort of what you're doing. I felt like you end up in these situations where even if you could do things kind of off the cuff, you kind of found yourself just going by the menu, which had kind of a limiting factor, at least for the groups that I played with. Let's see. Warlock 2000 is a simpler 4th edition that came out a decade earlier. I'll have to check that out. I'm not familiar with Warlock 2000. I really feel like 4th edition was in some ways ahead of its time. It really, to me, would make a really great board game version of D&D. I know they have the D&D board games. I have a few of them. But 4th edition really seems like it would have been kind of Gloomhaven. It was kind of Gloomhaven before Gloomhaven. In many ways, it obviously didn't have the sort of AI set up, but they could have easily created, I think, an AI for it. But it had all the kind of mechanics that you would want from a really tactical combat game. As far as this dungeon, I really like it. I mean, obviously it's tough depending on how you're converting it, how you want to do it, what level it would be, but it's pretty brutal. It's obviously meant for tournaments, meant for conventions, meant for kind of one-shots, right? So this is probably something I wouldn't bring your main characters from your campaign into, but you would make special side characters to run it in. A lot of great puzzles. I thought some of them are tough. I'm not the biggest puzzle fan, but I appreciate here how they try to set you up for what you will need to break down the puzzles. And again, kind of the nature of these kind of modules, I think, lends itself to having sort of a puzzly feature. And the time limit gives it sort of almost an escape room vibe. You've got 4 hours, and you can see the time clicking down as you're trying to get through everything and figure everything out. Wonderful atmosphere. I love some of the little details in the descriptions and things that are going on. This was a really fun read, and I could definitely see the person who sent this to me, posited that they got a lot of inspiration out of it, and I could definitely see that. I feel like there's a lot of fun things you can come after. I like how the things like the traps and things they're tied together thematically. So you have these things with the gems in the eyes, and then in multiple places where you can insert gems in the eyes, and that's a theme that repeats. Mouths opening to do things is a theme that repeats. So if you encounter it in one room and then you see another statue of a similar type, it rewards you having figured out the first time, because then that will give you cues and clues for the second time. And the touches like the continuing imagery of the Iron Lich and then the wife, and how that ties in throughout the whole adventure to the end where she's the phylactery. Just a lot of nicely done. A lot of great stuff in here. Well, that is all for that. This took me probably a little bit longer than I wanted to, and I'm kind of out of time. So I got to run, but hope you enjoyed this read-through. There's, again, a link in the chat, and there's also a link. It'll be in the show notes. It's free on drive-through. I definitely recommend, why not give it a look, regardless of what edition you're playing. I think you could find some material to pull from, some inspiration. That's all I got for now. Have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you're watching or listening to this. Game on, and I'll talk to you later.